A very good morning. I'm Dr. Shovik Chatterjee, head of the Department of Juridical Sciences, GIS University. This is my lecture with respect to Civil Procedure Code. Uh, I have talked about pleadings, Order 6, and said that pleadings include either plaint and written statement. Now, this series of lectures are going to be with respect to plaint. And plaint is the starting point in respect of a civil suit in any civil court of original jurisdiction. Well, Order 7 deals with plaint. Incidentally, the word plaint is not defined anywhere. So, I have to basically speak in respect of rules 1 to 8 of Order 7 of Civil Procedure Code 1908. In case of plaint, one thing has to be understood that the first thing that is required is the name of the court in which the suit is brought in. It is Rule 1A. Then comes the name, description, and the place of residence of the plaintiff. I have said that basically the territorial jurisdiction relating to a civil suit is totally based on where the person actually resides. There are two ways in which territorial jurisdiction is reposed. One is the question of where the plaintiff lies. That means the place of residence of the plaintiff. The second is the place of residence of the defendant. Against whom the suit is going to be filed. And if these doesn't work out, there can be a third question in terms of where the cause of action relating to that particular case has did arise. Based on that, jurisdiction can be imposed. Now, I can give examples. Let's say if it's a question of a divorce suit, the husband resides at one respective place in, let's say, Alipur, whereas the wife resides at let's say one part of Salt Lake. Now, in that case, the jurisdiction in respect of the civil suit can be either Alipur Judges Court, that is South 24 Parganas, or it can be, Barashat Court, that is related to North 24 Parganas, because Bidhannagar comes under that. There is a third option if the marriage has taken place at a residential, part where, the address of the plaintiff and the address of the defendant doesn't match. That can also speak in the context of jurisdiction. Name, description, and place. It basically means that how the plaintiff and the defendant, they are associated with that particular address. Based on that only the territorial jurisdiction is reposed. Then comes the question of the name, description, and place of residence of the defendant. The way it is supposed to have been given on the part of the plaintiff, the same is the question on the part of the defendant, because the question is, once the plaint is admitted in the court of law, a summons is being sent to the defendant saying that the defendant is supposed to file a written statement in reply to the plaint that has been filed on the part of the plaintiff. So, how the summons is going to go? The summons is definitely going to go only if the court has an idea or information as to the address and jurisdiction of the defendant. It is already there in Rule 1B, and thereafter comes the question of where the plaintiff or the defendant is a minor or a person of unsound mind. There has to be a statement to that effect, because there is a problem over there, because individually they are not allowed to sue or be sued. So, question is, if it's a minor, he has to be represented by a guardian. If he's a person of unsound mind, he has to be represented by a next friend who has the authority in respect of representing the person of unsound mind. So, those references has to be there with the court, civil court, while dealing with that. The next part comes as to the facts that are supposed to be mentioned, which constitute the cause of action. Like I give an example relating to a divorce suit. Now, in case of a divorce suit, there can be different cause of actions. If, let's say, one of the cause of action is related to the question of insanity. If let's say the wife has filed a suit against the husband saying that the husband was insane, all those facts, right, which basically has mentioned these were events number 1, 2, 3, 4 during the particular dates that have been given, which can show the fact that the husband was insane. That essentially constitutes the question of cause of action, and that is mentioned in that existing plaint. Now, interesting enough, this is very vital because if the cause of action is not accepted by the court, the plaint can be rejected. I have said there are two terminologies. One should be very careful about the terminologies. One talks about return, where the jurisdiction is not correct. Return is a very nominal question, but the rejection is a very serious question because it can generally discredit the plaintiff in a big way if it actually happens.